chosen one, I need you to sit with me for a moment. Not because I have a message to rush through, but because what I want to say to you carries weight, and weight requires stillness. You have been carrying something. I do not know the exact shape of it, whether it looks like a door that refuses to open, or a promise that keeps arriving late, or a quiet ache that never fully names itself. But I know you have been carrying it. I know, because the kind of person who arrives at a moment like this is always someone who has been tested in ways that do not show on the outside. And I need you to hear this first, before anything else. You are not here by accident. Something far greater than chance arranged for this exact message to reach you at this exact hour of your life. What I am about to share is not a general word for general people. It is for the one who has been faithful in the invisible season, the one who kept going without a guarantee. God is about to change everything in your life. Not some things, not the easy things, everything. Your relationships, the provision that has felt blocked, the calling that has felt stalled, the version of yourself that you knew was there but could not quite reach. It is all about to shift. And the size of what is coming, hear this, is proportional to the size of what you endured to arrive here. You were not forgotten. You were being prepared. Now sit down, because what comes next changes everything. Stay with me through everything I am going to share in this message, because by the time we are finished, you are going to understand the specific signs already present in your life that confirm this shift is in motion. You are going to understand exactly why the season you have been in was necessary and why it could not have been shortened by a single day. And you are going to walk away with a clear and honest picture of the 3 specific areas of your life that are about to be reorganized, and what that actually looks like on the ground. That is what we are building toward. Stay with me. Before we go any further, I want to be transparent with you. Everything I am going to share in this message is completely free. Nothing about that will change. But if at any point your spirit tells you there is more you need, that there is something meant specifically for this season you are in, you will find it in the description below this message and in the pinned comment. Do not go searching for it now. Only move toward it if something in you confirms it belongs to you. Right now, let us stay with what matters most. I want to begin here. Because before I tell you what is coming, I want to sit for a moment in where you actually are. Not the version you tell other people when they ask. The real version. The one you are honest about, in the quiet of an ordinary afternoon, when the world is moving around you but something in you feels still, suspended, waiting for something that never seems to arrive. I know what that feels like. Not the tired that comes from a hard day, the deeper kind, the kind that settles into your bones after months or years of believing in something and watching it not come, of building faith only to watch the silence stretch on, of telling yourself it is coming, while part of you quietly wondered if you had been wrong the entire time. If that is where you have been living, hear this before anything else. That exhaustion is not evidence that you were wrong. It is not a sign that you were overlooked. In fact, and I mean this with everything in me, the very depth of your weight is the clearest sign that what is approaching is too significant to have arrived ahead of schedule. God does not rush what He is building. But before I tell you what that means for where you are going, I want to name something that is already happening, because there are things present in your life right now that most people dismiss, explain away, or simply never have anyone interpret for them. Think about a tree in winter. The branches are bare. Nothing is visible. To every outside observer, nothing is happening. But underneath the surface, in the cold and in the dark, the roots are doing their deepest and most important work. You are standing in the coldest part of winter right now. But look closer. The ground beneath you is not dead. Something is moving that you cannot yet see. The first thing I want to name is the emotional waves. You know what I am talking about. The grief that arrives without a clear reason. The peace that settles in right after it. The way you can be completely fine in the morning and undone by afternoon, and then, inexplicably, settled again by evening. No clear cause. Just waves moving through you in ways that do not correspond to the actual events of your day. Most people call this anxiety. They call it hormones, stress, just a difficult season, and some of that may be true, but there is something else here. When a life is standing at the edge of a major shift, the spirit begins processing that shift before the mind has any language for it. The emotions arrive first, like weather patterns before a storm changes the sky. And they are not a sign that something is wrong with you. They are a sign that something is moving in you, something significant. Something your spirit is already beginning to feel the weight of before it arrives. This is not instability. This is your spirit processing a frequency shift that your mind has not yet been given the words for. You are not falling apart. You are reorganizing. The second thing I want to name is harder to describe, but I think you will recognize it immediately. There are environments, conversations, and situations that used to feel completely manageable that now feel heavy. Rooms you used to enter easily that now take something from you just to walk into. Conversations that used to feel neutral, that now leave you depleted in a way you cannot fully explain. And you might have questioned yourself for it. You might have wondered if you are being difficult, oversensitive, or unkind. You are not. What is happening is simpler than that, and more important, you are becoming discerning. Your spirit is learning to protect what is being built in you. The environments that feel wrong now are environments that were calibrated for a version of you that you are leaving behind. This is not you becoming difficult. This is you becoming ready. If something in those first two signs just confirmed something you already knew in yourself, something you have carried for a while but could not find the right language for, I want you to type 444 inches the comments right now. Let that be a simple acknowledgement between you and the Father. A quiet declaration that you recognize the season you are in. The third thing I want to name is the numbers. And I want to be honest here, because this is one people either dismiss entirely or lean into without grounding. So let me tell you what I actually believe about it. You have been seeing repeating sequences, 444 appearing on a clock, at the exact moment you were sitting with a quiet decision, 555 on the day something ended or something shifted. The same numbers showing up on a receipt, a page number, a passing sign, in places too scattered and too specific to be explained by pattern, seeking alone. And you have wondered what it means, whether you are reading too much into ordinary things. Here is what I believe. God uses the ordinary to signal the extraordinary, not because he is limited to small signs, but because he meets us in the texture of everyday life. Those numbers are not superstition. They are not wishful thinking stacked on coincidence. They are appointments, dressed in the clothes of the ordinary, placed in your path at the moments they are needed. The fourth sign is the one I find most significant, and the one that is hardest to talk about without sounding like something else entirely. It is the knowing, the flash of clarity about something before the information arrives, the sense of another person's true nature before they reveal it, the quiet certainty, without logical support, that a particular direction is wrong or right before any evidence confirms it. An inner intelligence that moves faster than your reasoning, faster than your analysis, faster than anything you could have consciously arrived at. Most people call this intuition and leave it there, but I want to name what I believe it actually is. That knowing is not anxiety wearing a spiritual costume. It is a divine frequency that your spirit is already operating on, a channel that has been opened in you, and it is receiving real information about what is coming before your visible circumstances can reflect it. You are hearing something true, something that your logical mind has not yet received confirmation for, but that your spirit already knows. This is not random. This is not your mind inventing patterns. This is not coincidence stacked on coincidence in a way that has no meaning. These signs are appearing in your life for the same reason a compass needle moves, because there is something real that they are being drawn toward, and you are standing at the edge of it right now. And that brings me to something I need to help you understand: why these signs are appearing at this particular moment. Because the answer to that question is going to make the past year make sense in a way that nothing else has managed to. Before I get there, I want to pause for just a moment. Not to teach, not to open another door. You showed up for this. In whatever the conditions of your day are right now, in whatever you were carrying when you pressed play, you are here. You stayed through the first signs. You did not close this out when it started getting close to something real, and I do not take that lightly. So before we go any further, I want you to take one real breath. Not a performance, not a meditation, just a genuine breath. Slow in and slow out. Let your shoulders drop even an inch. Let yourself be here for a moment, not processing what comes next, not reviewing what we already covered, just present. Because what comes next is the part that matters most, and I want you to receive it clearly. Let me tell you something specific about the season you have been in. Not the surface version, not the inspirational message about how God works everything out in the end. The specific version, the one that actually explains what has been happening and why it had to happen this particular way and not in any other way. The winter does not end because the tree tries harder. The tree does not push through the cold by effort or willpower. The real work of winter happens underground, out of sight, where no one is watching. The cold forces the roots deeper and wider, into harder soil, into ground that can actually support the tree when the full weight of what is coming requires its full height. The season you have been in has been doing exactly that, pushing your roots deeper, not punishing you, preparing you. There was a young man given a dream, a vision of who he was going to become, so far beyond his current circumstances that the gap between where he stood and where he was going felt not just impossible but almost cruel. His name was Joseph, and he spent years, real years, carrying a promise that had not arrived, in conditions he had not chosen for himself. The day his brothers threw him into a pit and walked away, that was not the end of his story. It was the first movement of something precise, deliberate, and entirely beyond what he could have managed on his own. He did not know it in the darkness of that pit. All he knew was the silence and the sound of footsteps walking away. But here is what the story looks like from the other side. Every single place Joseph ended up that he did not choose became a stepping stone. The pit, the house of Potiphar, the prison, the cupbearer who forgot about him for 2 years and then remembered at exactly the right moment. Every detour was deliberate. Every delay was strategic. Not one day of those 13 years was wasted. He could not see the pattern until he was standing in the palace looking back at the path that had brought him there. And only from that vantage point could he see that the betrayal was the beginning. The pit was the doorway. The prison was preparation. You are standing in your own version of that story, not in the palace yet, but closer than you think. And what looks like the most difficult stretch of the road is the part the story cannot happen without. Stay here with me for a moment, because there is something specific I need you to understand about why your wilderness has lasted as long as it has. This next part is what most people never hear. The first reason the season lasted as long as it did has nothing to do with your failure and everything to do with who God is forming you to become. The person He is preparing you to be, the version of you that will actually be able to carry what is coming, could not have existed in the life you had before this season began. Not because something was wrong with you, because the responsibility that is coming requires someone who has been tested, not broken. Tested. There is a profound difference between those two things. Pressure does not destroy what is built for weight. It reveals it, and you have been revealed. The second reason is clearance. Some of what you were holding had to leave your hands before what is coming could fill them. The plans that were not His plans. The relationships built on who you used to be, rather than who you are becoming. The versions of yourself you constructed to fit other people's expectations. None of that was evil, none of it was wrong, but it was not designed for where you are going. God does not remove what is serving you. He removes what would limit you. The third reason is the one I want to give you a word for, because it changes the way you experience time itself. The early church used two different Greek words for time. One was chronos, the steady linear tick of the calendar, the kind of time that passes whether anything meaningful is happening or not. The other word was kairos, appointed time, the specific, ordained moment when all conditions align, when the door is not just available but ready, when every piece that needed to be in place, in the visible world and in the unseen world, has finally arrived. Your wait has never been about you not being ready. It has been about kairos, about conditions being set simultaneously in places you could not see, arranged by a hand you could not track, moving toward a moment that was always coming. That moment is now. What felt like being left behind was actually being set apart. What felt like losing ground was actually gaining roots. What felt like abandonment was actually protection from things you could not yet see clearly. What felt like silence from God was actually the sound of construction on your behalf, in the unseen places where the real work is always done. I hear the Father saying over you today, every day you waited was a day I was building something you could not yet see. Not one prayer went unheard. Not one morning you chose to get up and keep going despite everything was invisible to me. Not one act of quiet faithfulness in the hidden season was lost. You have been in preparation for a door that is now, finally, ready to open. And what is on the other side is not a consolation prize for the years you endured. It is the reason they were required. Now, with that foundation in place, let me walk you through what this shift is actually going to look like across your life. 3 specific areas. The changes in these areas are significant, and before I get into them, I want to briefly mention something. Everything in this message is free. That is not changing. But there is something called the Genius Song that I want to name, because I believe it belongs in this conversation. It is a 7-minute audio tool developed to work at the level of brain frequency, specifically the gamma frequency that neuroscience has connected to clarity, intuition, and full cognitive alignment. I am going to go into more detail about it later in this message. You do not need it to receive everything else I am about to share today. The teaching stands on its own, but if your spirit feels something move when I mention it, a pull that feels more like confirmation than curiosity, the information is already in the description below and in the pinned comment. Only go toward it if you feel genuinely led, not out of obligation, not out of impulse, only if something in you says yes. Right now, let us talk about what God is about to do in 3 specific areas of your life. If you are joining this message at part 2, welcome. Here is where we are. God is about to change everything in your life. The signs of that shift are already present, and the season you have been in was not punishment. It was final preparation. Now I want to walk you through exactly what this change looks like, 3 specific areas, and what you can actually expect to see. 3 areas of your life are about to experience a reorganization so significant that the word change barely covers what it means. I want to walk through each one honestly, not as vague spiritual encouragement, but as a real map for what you are going to see. Let us start with the people in your life, because this is where the shift tends to be most visible and most painful. People are leaving, and people are arriving. The relational landscape of your life is being reconfigured, not because of something you did or failed to do, but with clear and deliberate intention. People who have been present in your life for a long time are going to step back. Some will drift gradually, without drama or explanation. Some will leave with friction. Some will leave in ways that confuse you because there is no obvious cause, no conflict, just a slow fading you cannot stop, no matter how much effort you put into holding it together, and it will hurt. I want to be honest with you about that, because a message that only promises the arrival without naming the leaving is not doing you any favors. Some of the people exiting will be ones you genuinely valued, and you will grieve endings you cannot fully explain to other people, or even entirely to yourself. But here is what I need you to hear. Do not lower yourself to be kept by someone who is being moved out of your season. Do not chase what is already releasing. Do not contort who you are becoming in order to hold on to a connection that God is already removing with purpose. For those entering this season, the clearing is preparation for the arrival. Just when the space feels its loneliest, when you begin to wonder if you will always feel this isolated, this misunderstood, this invisible, people will begin to appear. Not people who need you to shrink your calling to fit their comfort. Not people who require you to explain yourself before they can accept you. People who were built to walk beside what you are becoming. People who recognize what you carry without you having to justify it. You cannot plant new seeds in soil that is still occupied by the old harvest. The clearing hurts, but it is making room. The second area is your calling, and this one tends to show up as an internal restlessness before anything visible changes on the outside. The fog is beginning to lift. The calling that has always been in you, the thing you knew was there but could never quite hold clearly, the direction that felt like a whisper you could not confirm, is becoming declarative. The vague is becoming specific. The distant is becoming near. Here is what it will feel like at first. Not clarity, restlessness. Your spirit will know the answer before your circumstances have caught up. There will be a pull in a specific direction before the path is fully visible. And you might question it, because it does not feel like peace yet. It feels like urgency. Like something in you is ready to move before the conditions seem ready to support the movement. Do not accept a version of the calling that requires you to be smaller than what God has declared over your life. If someone requires you to shrink in order to have access to you, the access they want is not the access you were designed to give. I want to give you something practical here. There are 3 phases that move through every season like this. In the preparation phase, the calling is clear, but the conditions are not yet present. In the activation phase, the conditions begin arriving, but everything feels almost too sudden, like you cannot process it fast enough. And in the manifestation phase, things begin moving without you managing them. Doors opening without forcing. Connections arriving without manufacturing. Provision flowing through channels you were not watching. I want you to honestly ask yourself right now, which phase are you in? Not what phase you wish you were in. Which one feels true? Hold that question, because the answer matters for what you do next. The third area is the one that tends to surprise people the most, because provision almost never arrives the way people imagined it would. Resources are coming, doors are opening, opportunities are arriving through channels you were not watching and from directions you did not expect. The surprise is not that they arrive, the surprise is where they come from. Not the source you had in mind, not the path you planned, a conversation you almost did not have, a door in a wall you were not even looking at, a yes from someone you had not thought to ask. For those entering this season, do not limit how God provides by insisting on the specific method you already imagined. You prayed for provision. You did not specify the delivery channel, and He is not obligated to use the one you pictured. Provision does not always look like what you prayed for. Sometimes it looks like a relationship that opens a room. Sometimes it looks like a loss that freed your hands for what was always meant to fill them. Sometimes it looks like a delay that rerouted you to something better than the original destination. Spring does not arrive all at once. It begins in ways too small to notice at first. A degree of warmth here. A single green edge at the tip of a branch there. A morning that is slightly less cold than the one before. But those small signs are not insignificant. They are the announcement of everything that follows. Do not dismiss the small beginnings of what is already arriving in your life. And before I continue, I want to give you something to carry with you for just a moment. You do not have to move. You do not have to close your eyes. Just for 10 seconds, let yourself feel something. Not picture a specific outcome, not a particular number or title or place. Just feel what it would feel like in your chest if nothing were blocking your calling, if the right people were beside you, if the provision were flowing, if the door had finally opened and you were standing on the other side of it with your full purpose in front of you. Just the feeling. 10 seconds. Hold it. That feeling is not fantasy. That is not you projecting false hope. That is a compass, and it is pointing towards something that is already in motion on your behalf. I want to stop here for just a moment, not to teach anything more, not to open another door. I have been sitting with what we have covered together, and I want to say something simply. What you just allowed yourself to feel in those 10 seconds, that flicker of possibility, that sense that maybe it really is coming, that was not your imagination running ahead of you. That was your spirit recognizing something it already knows is true. The part of you that stays cautious, that holds back, that says it is probably too good to be true, that part is not wisdom. It is a wound. And the wound is healing. Take one more real breath. And let us finish this together. Before I can get to what I need to show you next, and I am going to get there, there is one pattern I need to put in your hands first, because it operates specifically against people who are standing exactly where you are right now. Not before the breakthrough, during it, at the threshold, when everything is almost in place, and if I do not name it now, it is going to find you before you recognize it for what it is. Stay with me. Before I continue, I want to make sure you are holding clearly what has already been given to you in this message, because what comes next requires a settled mind. Here is what we have covered. The why. You are in a season that looks like delay but is actually final preparation. The wilderness was not punishment, it was formation. Joseph did not reach the palace by avoiding the pit. He reached it by remaining faithful in every place he did not choose until the Kairos moment arrived, the appointed time when all conditions finally aligned. That appointed time is now. The what? 3 specific areas of your life are being reorganized by a hand that is not yours. Your relationships are being reconfigured to make room for who you are becoming. Your calling is moving from vague to undeniable. Your provision is shifting toward you through channels you may not yet be watching. This movement has already begun. The signs you recognized at the start of this message are the evidence. The who. This is not a general message for general people. It is for the person who endured the invisible season with faithfulness, who kept their spirit open when closing. It would have been easier. Who is standing right now at the exact threshold of what they were formed to step into. That is you. Let that be settled before we continue. Now, researchers at MIT and Princeton, among others, have spent decades documenting something remarkable inside the human brain, a specific frequency of brainwave activity called the gamma frequency, operating at a rate uniquely linked to everything we associate with operating at full capacity. Accelerated learning, pattern recognition so fast it registers as intuition, the ability to hold complex information, find connections quickly, and access what athletes and people of unusual clarity describe as being fully in the zone, where everything clicks and the noise goes quiet. The research is thorough, the documentation is consistent, and what makes it significant for this conversation is what the same body of research found about when this frequency disappears. Neuroscientists call it the decline effect. Gamma activity, which is naturally high in early childhood, the phase of life when learning is effortless and wonder is constant and nothing feels impossible, begins to suppress around the age of 7, not from illness, not from injury, from accumulated input, from an education system that rewards compliance over curiosity, from environments that optimize for predictability over aliveness, from years of being told, in 100 different ways, to think practically and follow the path that has already been laid out. A neuroscientist named Dr. Robert Lake has spent 34 years studying this specifically, studying how gamma suppresses, and more importantly, how it can be restored. And what he developed, after decades of research, is a way of using sound technology, specifically the phenomenon called brain entrainment, to guide the brain back into gamma, not to create a frequency that is not there, to remove the suppression and let the capacity that was always there re-emerge. Dr. Lake calls gamma a God-given brainwave. I think that is the right word for it. The science did not create this frequency. It found what was already placed in the human brain. Here is something I want you to understand about yourself. The reason you have carried, for as long as you can remember, a sense that you were operating somewhere below your actual capacity, that there was something in you that was not fully reaching the surface. That is not imagination. That is not comparison or wishful thinking. That is your spirit registering something that is true. People who carry the kind of calling we have been talking about today tend to feel the decline effect more acutely because the gap between their natural capacity and what has been suppressed is larger. What was shut down in you can be restored, and the restoration begins at the level of frequency, not effort. A woman reached out not long ago who had been in a season almost identical to what we have described in this message, waiting for direction that would not clarify, carrying signs she could not interpret, feeling the shift she knew was coming, but unable to access the clarity needed to move toward it. She had been in that state for close to a year. She used this tool for 7 consecutive days, and she did not describe what happened as a dramatic overnight transformation. She described it as a fog lifting. She said the best way she could explain it was that she could think straight for the first time in months. Not all the answers arrived at once, but the interference cleared. And once it cleared, the clarity started showing up in places she had not expected, in the quality of her decisions, in conversations that suddenly opened, in the direction that had been vague becoming simply, quietly, obvious. She is one of more than 18,000 people who have used this tool, and fewer than 4% of them have requested a refund. In an industry where return rates commonly run between 15 and 25%, fewer than 4% is not just a number. It is a quality signal. It tells you something real about what actually happens when people use it. What I am about to describe is not about forcing the spring. It is not about manufacturing results that are not real. It is about removing the interference that has been standing between your roots and what they were always designed to receive. The soil was ready. The roots were there. The season was already turning. This is the clearing. And I want to address something directly, because I believe honesty serves you better than a smooth pitch. If your first question is whether it actually works, I just told you what the numbers say. Over 18,000 people, fewer than 4% refund. Those are not the numbers of something that does not work. If your question is whether something operating at the level of brain frequency is compatible with a faith that says God is the source of all things, I understand the question. Here is my honest answer. Dr. Lake calls gamma a God-given brainwave. The science did not create this frequency. It found what God placed in the human brain. The tool does not manufacture the frequency. It restores what was suppressed. That is not a conflict. If your question is whether it is worth $39 when money is already tight, I want to sit with you in that question for a moment, because I respect it. You have probably spent real money before on tools that address the surface and not the source. And you have probably walked away feeling like you exchanged something real for something generic. What I am describing is not surface level. It is going to the exact root of what we have talked about today. But the decision is entirely yours. I am not here to pressure. I am here to give you the information and trust you to discern. It is called The Genius Song. It is a 7-minute digital audio track. You put in your headphones, close your eyes, and listen for 7 minutes. That is the entire practice. You do not need a specific environment. You do not need a quiet house or a meditation cushion or a particular posture. You need 7 minutes and headphones. It begins working from the very first session. Here is how the pricing compares to what most people already spend. A monthly subscription to a mindfulness app runs about $15 with no gamma targeting at all. A single session with a therapist runs about $150 with no gamma targeting. A weekend spiritual retreat costs between $400 and $800. Clinical biofeedback at a specialty practice runs about $300 per session and typically requires weeks of repeated visits before anything shifts. Dr. Robert Lake took 34 years of neuroscience research and compressed it into a 7-minute audio track. The original price is $49. For the people who receive this message, the price is $39. That reduction is not a promotional stunt. It is Dr. Lake's deliberate decision to make this accessible to the people who are most ready to use it, the people standing in exactly the season we have been describing today. And here is what comes with it at no additional charge. Genius Child, valued at $19, is a 6-minute version calibrated for the developing brain, for the children in your life who are still before the decline effect takes hold. The classic book, valued at $20, is the original text that the film The Secret drew its foundational ideas from, with the practical financial principles the popular version left behind. The guided visualization, valued at $29, is a 22-minute walkthrough across 4 areas of life: finance, relationships, health, and purpose, with guidance built in so you are not visualizing alone. And the 5-habit infographic, valued at $12, documents the daily habits of people who have maintained gamma activation after the restoration process, so you know how to keep what you are opening. That is $80 in additional resources, included free with a $39 purchase. And if at any point within 90 days you decide it is not for you, you contact the team and receive every dollar back. Every dollar. No conditions, no questions, and every single bonus stays with you, regardless. All $80 in resources remain yours, whether you stay or whether you go. The guarantee is that simple. I want to ask you one honest question. If this shift is arriving as I believe it is, and the signs we named at the beginning of this message suggest it is already in motion, then the question is not whether you are willing to change. You have clearly been willing. You showed up for this entire message. The real question is whether you want to step into this season with your mind operating at its full capacity or with the suppression still in place. That is the question I would ask anyone standing exactly where you are standing. Not as pressure, as a genuine question. And I trust you to answer it honestly. One thing before you go looking. If you search for the Genius song outside the link I am pointing you to, you will find imitations. There are copies of this technology that do not carry the original research. I want to make sure you reach the actual one. Use only the link in the description below or in the pinned comment above. That is the only way to ensure you are getting what I have described. The Genius song, description below, pinned comment above. When this message is finished, take a look, only if something in you confirms it is for you. Not out of obligation, out of confirmation. Now, let me name the pattern I promised to put in your hands. The thing that derails chosen ones right at the edge of their breakthrough is not failure. It is not a lack of faith. It is not something dramatic or obvious. It is control. You have been trying to manage a process that is bigger than your management. You have been gripping the outcome of something that was never designed to be held in human hands alone. And the exhaustion you carry is not just from the waiting. A large part of it is from the gripping. Here is what I want you to do right now. Not physically, just internally. Think of the one thing you have been holding the tightest. The outcome you have been trying to force into place. The timeline you have been trying to control. The door you have been trying to push open. You know what it is. Now say these words to yourself, quietly, just in your own mind. This is control, not faith. I was never designed to carry this alone. And then, in your mind, Simply open your hands, not as a ritual, not as a performance, as an honest acknowledgement that something greater than your effort is moving on your behalf, and your gripping has been slowing down what it was never meant to slow. That is the surrender. And surrender is not defeat. Surrender is how you get out of the way of what God is building. Now, let me tell you who you actually are. You are a cycle breaker. What ended with you was supposed to end with you. The patterns that ran in your family, in the environments that shaped you, in the generations that came before you, they stop here. Not because you willed it, because you were placed here, in this specific story, to be the one who walks differently. You are a light bearer. The clarity you bring into confused spaces is not a personality trait. It is an assignment. When you enter a room where people are lost or unclear, something in the atmosphere shifts, not because you forced it, but because you carry something real. You are a seer. What others miss, you notice. The pattern underneath the surface, the truth underneath the behavior, the signal inside what everyone else dismissed as noise. That is not a burden. That is a gift calibrated for this exact season. You are a hope restorer. When you choose to believe for something that everyone else has given up on, that is not stubbornness. That is calling. You were placed in specific rooms and specific stories to carry a faith that others could not sustain, and to witness what that faith makes possible. And I want to say something else. Something I want you to receive not as inspiration but as genuine permission. You are allowed to outgrow the person you were. You are allowed to step away from what was draining you, without a full explanation, without defending it, without converting anyone to your understanding of why. You are allowed to receive what is coming, without spending energy, managing other people's discomfort with your growth. You are allowed to be changed by this season, even if the change confuses people who preferred the former version of you. You are allowed to believe that what God said about you is more true than what the waiting made you feel. And you are allowed to sit in the certainty that this is not over. It is not ending. It is only beginning. Winter does not end because the tree tries harder. The season of your blossoming has arrived. Not because you finally got everything in order. Not because you pushed hard enough, or prayed long enough, or finally deserved it. But because the winter is over, and spring does not ask permission. It simply comes because the conditions required it, and the conditions are finally here. Before this message ends, I am going to speak something over your life that I believe will remain with you long after this space is closed. Stay with me for just a little longer. If what we have covered today confirmed something real in you, something that felt less like new information, and more like a truth you already knew but needed someone to say out loud, I want you to type "I am ready" in the comments right now. Not for this channel, for yourself, as a declaration over your own life. I am ready. Let us close this space the right way. I want to witness something before we end. What you carried into this message today, you are not carrying in the same way anymore. Something has shifted in how you are holding it. Maybe you cannot name exactly what changed, but something in the grip has loosened. Something in the fear around it has softened. And that is not a small thing. That is the beginning of everything. Take a moment here. Just sit with what has been placed in you, not analyzing what comes next, not reviewing what was covered, just receiving it. Picture what you have been holding the tightest, the anxiety about the timeline, the doubt about the calling, the fear of having believed for something that might not be real. Picture it sitting in your open hands, heavy enough that your arms have been aching from the weight of it, real enough that you have almost forgotten what it felt like before you were carrying it. And now, in your mind, open your hands, both of them. Just release it. Not because it does not matter to you, but because you were never designed to hold it alone. And the one who asked you to trust him is not absent. He was present in every hour of the season you just walked through. He is present right now. And I hear the Father saying over you today, You have been faithful with what I gave you in the hidden season. You showed up when the conditions were hard. You believed when the evidence was thin. You protected what I was building in you when it would have been easier to open it up to everyone and let them speak their doubt into it. And now, I am expanding your territory. The connections that are coming, you did not manufacture them. The provision that is arriving, you did not earn it through effort alone. I arranged it. The clarity that is beginning to dawn in you, that is not you, finally figuring it all out. That is the fog I am lifting. What I am about to bring into your life is not too good for you. You were built for exactly this. Now walk in it. If this word confirmed something real, if it landed the way a word from the Father lands, pass it forward. In this space there is a way to do that, and when you do, someone who has been waiting longer than they should have had to wait, someone carrying the same weight in a different city, in a different circumstance, in a different version of the same season, will find their way here. That person needs this. You may not know who they are, but your spirit does. You are not alone in this. Right now, all across the world, chosen ones are standing at the same threshold you are standing at, carrying a similar weight, feeling a similar shift, receiving a similar word. You are part of something larger than your individual story. If you know someone who has been unusually quiet lately, someone carrying something they cannot name, someone standing at a door they cannot see yet, this message has their name on it. If this space has been a place of real grounding for you, a place where you receive something that goes deeper than information, stay close. There is more being placed on my heart for you. And now, you are committed, you are commissioned, you are sent. Amen. And so it is.